So we're still going to do that. I'll just cut all this out on on the video, and but hey, shenanigans, they are what they are. Let's go. Hey, does anybody got anything to add, like on anything we were talking about? Because we're gonna go through this. Nobody. All right. Well then, all right then. All right. Yeah. So go ahead, Dre, man. I think we shenaniganed it enough.
Yeah.
As it is.
So I'm going to go through this fairly quick. That way you can pull it all back together. I'm just going to bring this understanding so people don't really. So a lot of people don't know that there's this whole concept of two messiahs. So there's Messiah Benjoseph and Messiah Bendavid. It represents two prophetic roles of the Messiah, or phases of the Messiah, is how it's been understood. And I kind of spoke about it a little bit in the very beginning, that because you see two different roles within the Messiah, like you'll see a suffering servant. And this is the reason why a lot of people have a hard time accepting Jesus, because they'll say, how could he be the Messiah when he's supposed to be a warrior? He's supposed to be a king. He's supposed to be glory. He's supposed to bring Israel back together and all these physical things. But there's two portions to this. So the role and the mission of the Messiah, according to Judaism in the Bible, you'll see that there's the suffering servant and then there's the warrior Messiah. So the suffering servant is supposed to be destined to come first and fight and bring people back to Christ and die in this specific battle. So it's like a preparation for redemption is how people see Messiah Benjoseph. We're going to go through some scriptures so somebody can start pulling them up. Go to Zechariah 12:10 and Genesis. Well, we can't read the whole. It's a bunch of chapters that you got to go through, which we already did. Genesis 37 through 50. We've actually studied that. If you haven't seen it on Descaled, go back. I believe it was.
What'd you say it was? Genesis what?
The chapters 37 through chapter 50. We've gone through that, which is like the promises and the scepter of Judah and all that stuff goes back to Messiah. I want to say it was. Flip a couple years ago that asked about the different blessings of the 12 tribes, and we went through that in depth. So it should be like a year into YouTube. If somebody can find it, put it in there on the Discord. Isaiah 53 obviously is the suffering servant. Everybody knows that one. And it's funny because when you go to Jerusalem and you read Isaiah 53 to Jews, like Orthodox Jews, especially younger ones, and you read Isaiah 53 and you ask them what is this about? They'll say, oh yeah, that's Jesus. That's Christian. That's the Brit Hadashah. So they'll say that it's a New Testament. And then you go back and no.
Let me say this quick. Alex, thank you for that reminder. I wish my mods were paying attention to the screen, but they're not. I'm paying attention to the screen. Guys, this is a good time to repost the live. Listen, try not to repost a live when you get in here. Wait until the discussion is pretty much getting started and repost a live. If you don't know how to do that, then put in there in the chat, how do I repost? And then somebody will tell you. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So a lot of Jews in Israel will look at Isaiah 53 because they have hidden Isaiah 53 from the synagogues in a lot of ways because they know it represents Christ. You'll ask them and they'll say, yeah, that's Christian writings. And they don't understand that actually has to do with the Messiah. And so Messiah ben Joseph comes from the tribe of Ephraim. That's the thought process behind that. So I don't know if anybody has Zechariah 12:10. We can read it real quick, and I'll just keep going. Or otherwise, I'll read it because I have it already. But it's up to you guys.
Go ahead. No, go ahead and read it.
So Isaiah, obviously, we know Isaiah 53 says he was despised and rejected, a man of sorrows is how it represents Christ in Isaiah 53. So, and we know that the soul in there says that his soul, it pleased him that his soul may travail for men, right? By his stripes we are healed, so on and so forth. So Isaiah 53 is about the suffering servant. Zechariah 12:10 says, they shall look upon me whom they have pierced and mourn for him. The rabbinic sources say that this is associated with Messiah ben Joseph at his death. Is it a coincidence that this actually looks like Yeshua? It doesn't. It's not a coincidence. And then we have Genesis 37 through 50. You'll see it's all of Joseph's story, and you can see the prophetic types and shadows. We'll see how he's betrayed by his brothers, and then later he's sent ahead to preserve life, and then later he's revealed to them the glory, and we see like the blessings within that. So we've gone through Joseph a bunch of times, and I think it has been very well explained how Joseph is a shadow and type of Messiah, and then the blessing comes after that. So that you can see in the rabbinic sources in the Talmud in Sukkah 52a, it speaks that the Messiah, the son of Joseph, is being slain before battle, before the final redemption. So we see the final redemption of mankind, or the redemption of mankind, happens at the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. He touched on this yesterday about the gates of Hades and how they won't prevail. We see this fulfilled in Yeshua Messiah, even through the Talmud. When you go to the Midrash Rabbah or the Zohar, it emphasizes that the suffering of said Messiah is necessary for the glory of the Davidic Messiah to come. So they believe that the suffering of Messiah ben Joseph has to happen first in order for the Messiah to come. The question is, as we're going through, the question is, what other man can fulfill the role of the suffering servant today? It's not even possible. Like, it's already been met, right? It's been met through Yeshua Messiah. There's no way around that. So in the Messianic Yeshua-centered interpretation,
before the second temple fell, right?
Exactly. It's impossible. The suffering servant has already come. He's supposed to happen before the fall of the second temple, 100%. And the first, well, the time is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. So let me ask that way, everybody that's listening. What are they claiming? What is the suffering that the suffering servant is supposed to go through?
Isaiah 53. It's supposed to be the whole piercing of the side. It calls it piercing. You go to Psalms 22 about he's surrounded by dogs before he passes away.
So the verses that a Christian would use to say Jesus is the Messiah, they are seeing these as the suffering servant. And are they saying that he's supposed to be put on the cross? Like, what are they saying about the piercings and all that? What is supposed to happen? And who is supposed to do this to this servant?
Well, it's supposed to be Gentiles that do it, number one. Number two, as far as like the cross, it's I believe there's a verse in the Old Testament that talks about being hung on a tree. I can't remember exactly the name of it. I can't remember the exact one. Well,
there's a few. One of them said, "Curse is a man that hangs on a tree," right?
Right.
So are they saying that that's talking about the suffering servant?
Yeah. So what happens is that the sages of old will say that has to do with the suffering servant, the Messiah ben Joseph. And then after, there's a polemic that takes place 300 years after the Brit Hadashah, after the New Testament is done, is what we see as a polemic against Christ not being these things. And this is where you see the polemic of them no longer reading Isaiah 53, where they no longer talk about the quote unquote suffering servant. So if you notice, what the most Orthodox Jews, what they'll focus on, they'll say Jesus can't be the Messiah because the Messiah is supposed to be a king and powerful and bring everybody together. So they'll dismiss the suffering servant part.
Okay. So, all right. So all the other things though, right? Like if we're claiming that he was put on the cross, he was pierced. If we claim that all those things happening, they can say, okay, fine, great. All those things happened, but he didn't become king, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Yep. Which means there's only one way to say this. There's no other way to say this. If that's the only thing that's stopping them, I mean, I don't know how to say this without being rude because it's going to come off rude. That means they don't understand what they're reading.
Well, I will attribute that, and I will add on top of that, I'll build on that because that's true. The second part is, I hate to say it, but Catholicism and that form of Christianity really destroyed the connection, the beautiful connection that we have here on Descaled, where we see the Bible from beginning to end. We don't see a distinction between gods. We don't see a distinction, and we don't say like now the Old Testament is not applicable to me. You know, like, and that's kind of what Catholicism did. So when you say that Christ came to abolish the law or destroy the law or didn't live according to the law, then what ends up happening is that Jews will say, well, he can't be the Messiah. That's why I argue so much with Christians when they say this nonsense. You can't say that, because if you say, according to Deuteronomy, it says that a false prophet will come and he will test you with false prophets. And what does he do? He will lead you away from the morality of God. Jesus didn't do that. Jesus was the morality of God. He came to explain, because Torah means teaching. It means explanation. It means a way of life. Torah doesn't just mean the law of Moses. Like, that's not what that means. In Isaiah 42, we clearly see that it says that the Messiah will come from the coastlands, that he will bring his Torah. His Torah is his teaching. He's bringing his teaching according to, that's why, and Tra has did this a million times. That's why he says, yeah, you say this, but it wasn't so from the beginning. He's not changing the law. He's just explaining to you that you missed it, because from the beginning, it was the heart of man.
Yeah. And the thing is, again, it's not easy to hear. It's not for anyone. I get it. But Jesus is the law. And let me tell you why that makes a lot of Jews today mad, is because when you say that Jesus is the law, you take away their physical law that they have. As soon as you say it, as soon as you say Jesus is the law, you're literally telling them that everything that they've been studying, the way that they've been studying, means nothing now. And that is hard. That is hard to hear. That's 100% hard to hear. That's hard to hear, that they do not want that to be true. So, but he is,
But
number
the
one.
same goes for the Christians too, right?
Well, no, hold on. But that's the point I'm making. Hold on a second. That's the point I'm making. When you say that Jesus is the law, it's going to make the Jews mad. Okay. And it makes them mad because all this stuff that they're talking about. And when you say that Jesus is the law, the people that are trying to put themselves under the law, you take it away from them too. So anyone that has this works mentality, anyone that has a works mentality, when you say that Jesus is the law, it takes away that natural pride that man just naturally have. It takes it away from them. And so they want to argue about it. They do not want that to be true. But I don't understand this. I'm sorry, I had to read something. They don't understand that man from the beginning, before the law was given, the mankind said any law that God gives us, we can do. And to this day, mankind naturally has this pride about them. And what they try to do is sell it off as humility. I'm literally saying humility. Humility is the only plea I have is the blood. Yeah. So, but they are trying to say that they are being humble by doing all these things, and they don't realize that it's pride. That is very prideful. It is antichrist to say that I still have to do these things over here. And again, there's people that do them because they grew up that way, and that's fine. But I don't care you grew up that way or not. But if you've made yourself believe that this is what makes you right with God, I don't care if it's 1%, then that person is not going to like to hear that Jesus is the law. And so when you say that Jesus is the law, and then they're like, how? Like, because you got to understand, they made the mistake by separating what Moses gave. Now, first of all, it is separate. Paul made it very clear that Moses gave the law. When you tell someone who's under the law that Moses gave the law, it is so funny. It's so fascinating when they're like, hold on a second. God gave it to Moses. Like, bro, like, it's kind of like saying, or you buy a gift to your kid and the kid's got the gift, whatever it is. Okay. We'll say it's this flashlight. And the kid's like, la, 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 la. And they're bragging to their flashlight, to their friend. And the friend goes, so your dad bought it. Does anybody see what it was given to the kid? Like, obviously the dad bought it. Okay. But if it was a gift and it was given by one person to another, what is the point of saying it don't matter? Your dad bought it. Does anybody know? Does anybody know why a kid would tell another kid it don't matter? Your dad bought it.
He's trying to discredit it.
Yeah, you're trying to discredit it. You're trying to downplay. You can't downplay who gave it. You can't downplay who gave it. You can't downplay that 100%. And the Bible, jealousy, yeah, the Bible makes it very clear. The Bible makes it clear that the Gentiles will cause anyone that upholds the law over Christ or holds the law at equal value, and I'm talking about the one Moses gave, they will be jealous. The Bible makes it clear. Does anybody know the verse? I got two of them. I got
Say
two.
it again. What was the verse? What were you talking about?
Exactly. There is a verse in the Bible that talks about how the Gentile are going to cause the Jewish to be jealous.
Yeah, it says, because of their rejection, he will provoke them to jealousy by his goodness towards the Gentiles.
Okay, well, let's find it. I don't know why we're doing that. Let's find the darn thing.
Yeah, it's in Romans 11.
Yeah,
I think.
But again,
I think it's also Malachi.
yeah, there's a few times that it talks about this in the Bible. But the point is, they don't understand that when you're saying no, Jesus is the law. So when the word, when the finger of God wrote the word of God down on tablets, and then you go to verses that say, no, the law is spirit, the law is spiritual. I don't understand what's so hard to okay. First of all, the Ten Commandments were not spiritual. I don't understand this. It's a physical rock, period. They're physical rock. Common sense will tell us that it came from the spirit because God is spirit. I don't understand what's so hard about that. Once it was written on stone, as soon as it was written on stone, then it was no longer spirit, but it came from the spirit. No, duh. I don't know what's so hard about this. Now it's on stone. Why? Why is it on stone? Why did God do it that way? I don't know why people don't want to ask themselves, why did God write it on stone tablets? For what reason? Why? So he can tangibly put it in Moses' hands, and he called those people the people of Moses. He said, your people. That's why. That's why he put it on stony tablets, because those are your people. I don't know what's so hard about this. At that moment, God did not say, give those stone tablets to my people. How come he didn't take them as his people? Why did he give the stony tablets to Moses? And then he said, you give the law to your people. So when they say, wait a minute, God gave it to Moses, it don't matter. Anytime people bring that up, I want to bust out laughing. The fact that they would even say, well, God gave it to Moses. He didn't give it to him spiritually. No, he did not. No, he did not. We got the word spiritually through Christ. You need to stop lying. It's a complete lie. The word was not given to man spiritually until Christ came. It is a complete lie. The spirit of God's word was not given to the people by Christ. It was not given to the people by Christ. It was given to a physical man, so the physical man can physically give it to them. And I saw some people put it in there, and it was because they had a stony heart. That's the reason. They didn't have a heart of flesh, so he could not have given them the law through the heart of flesh. So he gave them something that was pointing to the actual law, which was what was written on the stone tablets. It's pointing. I don't understand this. The law was never the actual law that was given to Moses. No, it wasn't. It was a shadow of something to come. And when that thing came and it spoke the word, Moses and Elijah were there, and he said, hear him. That's what he said. He told everyone there, hear him. There was no, now the Moses, the prophets, and Jesus, hear them all. That's not what God said. He did not say hear them all. He said hear him. And what these people are trying to do is they're trying to take this, oh, hear him? Oh, okay. Well, he was under Moses' law. I really don't want to say blasphemy, but I don't think you realize what you're saying. Moses, listen, God gave the tablets to Moses and said, give this to your people, your people, your people. Jesus was not under the curse of the first Adam. Moses could not give the physical law to the actual law. He didn't have the power to do that. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He put himself under that law. Moses did not give that law to Jesus. Use your head for a second. So, I'd ask one of these people, did Moses give that law to the Jews? Yes. And they'll say, was Jesus a Jew? Yeah, he was a Jew because he put himself as a Jew. Not because he had the curse of the first Adam. All these people had the curse of the first Adam, period. And Jesus did not. So to call him a Jew in the sense that he was put under the law because he deserves death, it's a complete lie. It's not true. He put himself under the law because he came in the likeness of man. That's how he came. He came in the likeness of man, and he did that so he can put everything on the cross. He nailed all of it on there. So when you're looking at God, that you are received by God because of your behavior, then that means you're going back to the law that is pointing out your sin. Anytime you put yourself under the law, it strengthens sin. That's what it does. The law cannot save you. The law was not given to save. It wasn't even given for that. It was given to show you you're a sinner. Jesus did not come to show you you were a sinner. Moses was the accuser. He's already done that. If you are not understanding why Moses gave the law, then you're missing the whole purpose of the law. It was there to show you you're a sinner. It wasn't there to show you how to be right with God. Absolutely not. No, it was there to show you where your sin is. That's it. So if Moses, the accuser, says, hey, this is what you got to do, I don't care if you do all of them right, except for one. You see where your sin is now, right? That's all. That's the reason it was here. It's so when they put the law in front of you, well, to be right with God, I don't do that. Steal? I ain't never stole nothing. I ain't never done. You keep reading, you will find yourself in that law. You will find yourself in that law. And that right there is Moses accusing you, saying that you're a sinner. That's it. That's why it was given. It wasn't given to show you what you have to do to be right with God. Absolutely not. It was given so you can look at it and see, where are you at? Here's God's laws. Where are you at? If you say, I'm not in there, I've never broken one of God's laws, then you're a liar and the truth is not in you. Ain't that what the Bible says? That if you say that you have not sinned, then you're a liar and the truth is not in you. But if you're looking at the law and you're honest with yourself and you're like, yeah, I have sinned. Okay, then. So now that you physically can see what the law is saying, now that you can physically see that, now Jesus sent the spiritual law, which came in the form of his son. You understand? He came, but he's not the accuser. When they brought forth the woman to Jesus that was caught in the act of adultery, what ends up happening? He says, where are your accusers now? Ain't that what he asked? Ain't that what he asked?
Yep.
Where are your accusers now? Why did he say that? Because they were under Moses' law to accuse. God gave that so Moses could accuse all of them, to show them you're sinners. Here, look, find yourself. Are you in there? And if anybody says, I'm not a sinner. Oh, what happened at Mount Sinai? 3,000 people died. Why? Why? Because the letter killeth. That's all it does. It kills. That's what it does. The letter killeth. Moses was not the accuser, but they try to get him to accuse people. You understand? Why do the scribes and today, people who call themselves Jews, whatever they call themselves, and you say Jesus is the law and they hate you? Why? Why? Because you're taking away their weapon. You understand? They don't even realize what they're doing. You're taking away their weapon, the thing that they can go around accusing everybody and themselves. And they're saying, no, you can't be right with God without this. You can't be. What's the only thing that makes us right with God? Jesus. Why? Because the spiritual law that came through Jesus did not come to accuse. It came to give life, not to accuse. It's totally different. It's not the same. They're not even a little bit the same. The understanding of what is written down, right? Don't kill, don't steal. All that is in Christ, right? In the sense of you're not supposed to be doing these things. But how come he's not accusing you, though? I don't understand what's so hard about this. How come Jesus is not accusing you? So they go to all the verses where Jesus is like, if you do this, you do this, hellfire. If you do this, what's funny, he says all these things, but if you're under the law, you're hearing something else. But it's so funny. He talks about all these things, but a woman comes that's caught in the act of adultery. How come he just didn't get stoned and say, all right, guys, everybody line up? Why not? Because it's not the way people are wanting it to be. It's God's going to do it the way that it needs to be done. So if Jesus is always making it sound like you're going to hell, you're going to do these things, you're going to hell if you're doing these things, that's funny. That's funny. Let me ask you, when the man was brought to Moses and they said, hey, we caught him picking up sticks. And Moses was like, oh, crap. Hey, God, what do we do? Kill him. Oh, yeah. Duh. That's what the law says. Kill. How come Moses didn't say, hey, whoa, you without sin, cast the first stone? Anybody know? How come Moses didn't say that?
Know you not what spirit ye are of?
But the point is, why didn't Moses say it? Why didn't Moses say, whoa, guys, you without sin, cast the first stone? How come Moses didn't say that?
He didn't have that authority.
There's a lot of reasons, but the number one reason is because that's why the law was given to Moses, so he can accuse. That's why it was given to him. So now we misunderstand the difference between the accusation, the accused being brought to a man that has a stony heart. Listen, Christ had not yet died. He hadn't died. So nobody has a heart of flesh. They have a heart of stone. And so because they have a heart of stone, they have to be judged by their heart of stone. Do you understand? Everyone that has sinned against God, which is the curse under the first Adam, there is nothing else to give you but accusation. So he gives the stony law to the stony heart, right, to a physical people to teach them how to physically behave. That's why he said, all right, behave. Well, guess what? They died all the time. They got stoned all the time. But they bring a man to Moses and accuse him, and he did not have the power to say, well, you without sin cast the first stone. He didn't have the power to say that. So he accused him, and he said, kill him. But then that which is better than Moses came, and they brought a woman caught in the act of adultery, which is way worse than picking up sticks. Who's going to argue with me? Is that not worse than picking up sticks?
Yes.
Okay, so she's caught in the act of adultery, doing a very gruesome thing. And Jesus says, oh, okay, well, you without sin cast the first stone. Nobody wants to stone her. And he says, where are your accusers now? Well, they're not here. Well, that's funny. How come Moses and Jesus handled a sin 100% differently? They're so different, it's night and day. Why did he handle it so different? But yet they say, hey, you break the law, you go hellsy. You go burn in hellsy. Well, that's funny. How come he just didn't torture right there? So this whole attitude that the law is this, the law is that, no, my friend, the reason that Jesus was able to handle the matter that way is because he is the law. That's why. He's the law. He overrode the law. Period. I don't care what you say, how you want to flip this and argue. No, but even he said that you're not supposed to. That's funny. It's so funny how they keep bringing up verses, how Jesus is like pointing out how you're going to go to hell and all this stuff, which we could talk about that another day. But when it came to, hold on a second. But when it came to, hold on, what'd you say? The word, would you say picking up sticks is trusting himself? The act of adultery is worshiping other gods. Yeah, exactly. But again, it's still sin, right? They're both sin. Picking up sticks on a Sabbath is a sin. Committing adultery is a sin. They're both sins. Both of them are. But the point is, the reason that Jesus handled it the way that he handled it is because he is the law. And his law, which is the spiritual law, it overrides the physical law that was given to Moses. It was given to Moses because that is what was given to Moses' people. What was given to Moses' people, this is not hard. It was the accusation. It was the accuser. That's what was given. That's what was given. That's why Paul said, Moses, even that he accuses you. Paul understood. Oh, Moses accused all the people. He was the accuser. That's how he was used regarding the law, because everybody was sinners. You understand? Everybody that received the sin from the first Adam, they all had a stony heart. Therefore, the only thing they were worthy of was judgment. That's it. It's the only thing, was the judgment of God. So he had a man give them a law, and he was in charge of that law. And what did Moses do with the law? He upheld it. Not to become right with God. He upheld it because he himself had the heart that came from the first Adam, a stony heart. So Moses accused. So if you put yourself under the law of Moses, my friend, the only thing you're going to get is accusation. You will be accused. Continue. God is not happy with you because that has nothing to do with what the reason that the law was given to Moses. It was given to accuse you. And now that shadow of the Messiah, which is Christ, the shadow, the actual thing is here now. If the actual Messiah is here, and the Bible says that Moses was a type of the Messiah, my friend, then I'm not really sure what's so hard to understand here. I really don't get it, because the Bible says that Jesus came out of the bosom of the Father. He came out of Moses, did not come out of the bosom. Did Moses come out of the bosom of God? Did Moses come out of the bosom of God? Anybody?
No.
Okay, but if he did, if Moses came directly from the bosom of God and God gave him the 10 commandments, then my friend, then that would be the law. The way that you're misinterpreting what the law is, that would be the law that we would have to be under, because Moses came out of the bosom of the Father. But he didn't. He was a shadow of something to come, which was what? The actual law. See, God did not write the law on the heart of Moses and say, give it to the people. It's not what he did. He wrote it on stone tablets and gave it. But Jesus, the reason the Bible says that the laws will be written on your heart is because the laws are written on God's heart, and Jesus is the heart of God. Jesus didn't run around reading the tablets. Guys, thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not bear false witness. He is the law. So when Jesus came out of his bosom, the law was there. But the Bible says that God is love. Moses is not love. Is Moses love? Is Moses love? Anybody? No. Moses is not. God is love, and Jesus is God. Moses is not love. Jesus is love. So putting yourself under the accuser is actually the dumbest thing you can do when God gave you the one that doesn't accuse. He gave you the Redeemer. But yet for some reason you keep trying to take what the accuser has given you. The word Moses means trust or rest. Actually, it means to pull out of water. Yeah. To draw out of water. That's what it means. To draw out of water. That's what his name means. But one thing is true about Moses is he had the curse from the first Adam, and Jesus didn't. Moses had the curse from the first Adam. Moses did not come out of God's heart. He was drawn out of a river physically. Jesus came out of the living water straight from the heart of God. Moses came out of a river that was symbolizing a Messiah that is the ark that was going to come out of the living water. Not the same thing, completely different. One was physical, which was a shadow of something to come, and one was the actual ark, right? That's why you have Noah's ark. That's why you got the Ark of the Covenant. And then you have Moses that comes in a quote unquote, a little ark. Why? Because Jesus is the ark of God, coming out of the bosom of the Father, the living water directly spiritually from the Father, not to accuse, but to bring life, not to accuse. Moses accused because Moses was cursed under the first Adam. Jesus was not cursed under the first Adam. So this whole which one is better, right? Law of Moses. I could do this all day. You can sit there and go read the law and you can go read these things all day long. But if you truly don't see who Jesus is, then you truly don't see what Moses was, which was an accuser. That's what he was. And Christ didn't come to accuse. He came to give life. That's why he told the lady, where is your accuser now? When he said that, there's no longer the law of Moses. Where? Somebody show me where the law of Moses was. They were there in the man. They were there in the scribes and the Pharisees. That's why he said you sit in Moses' seat, which means they are representing Moses to accuse. But when the actual word of God spoke, they all left. And guess what? This woman was a sinner standing before God. Where's Moses? Where's Moses at? Huh? All these people that put themselves, where was Moses at when this lady should have been stoned? Where was she? Where was she at? Or him, sorry. Where was he? He fled. Why did Moses flee? If it's all about standing on what Moses gave, how come Moses fled the scene when God said, you without sin cast the first stone? Why'd they run away? If this is not the Messiah, how come the scribes and the Pharisees didn't stand 10 toes down and say, we're not listening to your stupid butt. You're not the Messiah. How come they didn't do that?
Because they weren't sure.
How come they didn't stand? And here we are all these years later. And
because they were breaking the law of Moses to begin with.
Okay.
The whole accusation thing
no,
that they came with.
The man's not there either. Yeah. Dre, trust me.
I know, but there's other people that are here. So then they come repeat what you said and then they get cooked. I'm trying to... Because they can't explain all of it.
My bad.
So the law, the point is that they couldn't even keep the law of Moses to begin with. That's the whole point. So they could, when he says ye without sin cast the first stone, they're sinning by even bringing this woman before him to begin with. So the law of the Messiah is greater, is the law. It is the spiritual law. And if you can't see it, then that's a bigger problem. Yeah, and Trot just put it beautifully. Like you're born. Think about this, guys, just for a second. He said something. I know Trot talks real fast, right? But I'm going to slow this down for just a second. And the timeless Yeshua thing, we'll just put that on hold for a second. So if you listen to what Trot said. It's very important. If you can grasp this, you'll grasp the whole idea. When Adam is born, everybody after Adam has a heart of stone. So you have to be under the stone. So the law comes down spiritually, but it goes written on a stone. When it goes on a stone, it's no longer spiritual. Now that stone belongs to hearts, to men with hearts of stone. Yeah, you following me, everybody? Please tell me you're following me. So if Adam has a heart of stone, the law comes down spiritually, but it is written on stone, no longer being spiritual. So stone goes to stone. So the stony heart belongs to the stony law. And then here comes the Messiah. He doesn't come down with a heart of stone. He comes down with a heart of flesh, already with the Spirit of God poured on it, walking according to the judgments and the commandments of God, according to Ezekiel 36.
And with and the law already written on his heart.
Yeah, he is right. It's so it came down in flesh. Because remember, the prophecy says, "I will turn your heart of stone to a heart of flesh, and I will pour my Spirit upon you, that you may walk according to my judgments, my commandments." Well, Jesus didn't need that. He was the heart of flesh with the Spirit on it already. It's very important to understand that. So when the spiritual law comes down, the true law, which is Christ, that's why it says the law of Christ, the royal laws. James calls it the royal law, the law, which is of who? Which kind of goes back to what we're talking about. It goes back to the second Messiah, which is the King of Kings.
Yeah.
That's who it is.
Yeah, because because that's what we're talking about, right? Because this is still going to be. We didn't get into
Messiah Bendavid, but that's the next part right there. Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, no, but we can get into it right now, right? Because again, we're just going to keep going until we're done. So you have Messiah Benjoseph, you have Messiah Bendavid, and we're talking about those two because this is what the Jews will argue to say. This is why we don't believe that this man was the Messiah, and they bring up the fact that he didn't become king. First of all, he did. They asked him, "Are you a king?" He said, not of this world. My kingdom is not of this world." So when the Jews are thinking, well, he was supposed to be king of this world. There's no nice way to say it because it is going to come off rude. Okay, it is. But I need everybody to understand it's not my intention. Okay, no offense. But they didn't understand what they were reading. That's why they called him manna. Well, again, their way. Jesus is trying to tell them, I am the what is it. You understand? But it's funny because God told Moses that he was going to give bread. He made it very clear what he was giving, but they didn't recognize it as bread. They didn't recognize it. So they said, well, what is it? God did not say, I'm going to give you manna. He said, I'm going to give you bread. That's what he said. But then they called it manna. You understand? That's what they called it, manna, which that word manna means, what is it? They called it, what is it? It's crazy that that they didn't translate that in English, right? It would have been better if they would have put, and they called it, and then put in parentheses, what is it? But they called it, no, just put the word manna there. Put the word manna. Okay, well, they called it manna. So then we run around, sounding like a bunch of goofballs. Yeah, well, when the manna was in heaven, God provides. He gives you manna. That's not what he gave. He gave, what is it? You're missing the huge point here. He gave something to them, and they said, well, what is it? And then Jesus said, I'm the true what is it. He said, they didn't know what it was, and then here y'all go. Y'all still don't know. I don't know. I'm the true one. I'm the one thing that came down from heaven, bread of life. That's why he said, I'm going to give y'all bread. That's why he said it, because Jesus is bread. That's what he is. But when he came, the scribes and the religious people of the day did not recognize the Messiah, period. Did not recognize the Messiah, bro. And then we have religious leaders today, and everybody's confused why they don't recognize who the Messiah is. Listen, there is more people that are Jewish today. They have way more time to try to figure out who Jesus is. Way more. There were people in the religious day, they would hear of some crazy man acting crazy, and they just went on about their business. A lot of them didn't pay any attention to what was going on. They would scoff and laugh about it and say, well, I'm talking about Jesus again, man. Get out of here with that. Say, okay.
They're just like, oh, another Messiah?
Oh, another Messiah?
They've had several of them in that time frame. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, there was a lot of people there, but none of them were physical king. They were looking for a physical king. That's what they were looking for. But you know what's funny? Regarding God, shadows are very important. Very important. Very. I'm going to show you what I mean. Did God himself ever become king on earth before Jesus? Ever? Guys, did God ever become king on earth before Jesus?
Clarify.
What do you mean clarify? I made it very clear. It's a yes or no.
Yeah, he was Melchizedek.
Yeah, but he wasn't king. Melchizedek wasn't king of the earth.
Then technically, no. I don't think God ever made himself king
so
of the earth,
if God himself never became king on earth, that means those kings were shadows of something to come, which is going to point to a spiritual king. God himself would have to show up in the Old Testament and be king and then decide to leave for whatever the reason would be, decide to leave and then come back through the Messiah and just be king again, because there would be a shadow of that. There is no shadow of that. What there is a shadow of people who are king that come in the name of God, but they're physical kings. The shadow of that is a spiritual king, my friend. It's not a physical king. But these people didn't understand that. They didn't understand that. They were waiting for a physical king. No. Where did you get the idea that God was going to be a physical king here? Where in the Bible do you see it? You just hear, and he will be king, and he will be king. That's all you hear. But where do you see it? There has to be a shadow there. Has to be. We see David. We see Solomon. We see before David, Saul. All you see is shadows of God being king. You don't see him being king. And he tried to be. You don't remember? He tried to be their king, and they said, no. We'll pick the man that's got the biggest head. He was actually the same size as everybody. He's had a real big head. But we're going to pick Saul to be king. And he failed. And then David was king, and he failed. So he was never going to be a physical king. Nowhere in the Bible did God become a physical king. Nowhere. It never happened.
The Orthodox Jews would use Zechariah 14. That's the verse that they use, or the chapter. And we can go through it if you want. But yeah, that's what
let's
they
go.
would
Matter
use.
of fact, let's go. I don't know why they would bring that up, but let's go to Zechariah 14. But again, they bring that up because they don't understand what they're reading. So here we go. Right. You know, you're going to offend some people because you're telling them that's not what that meant. That's not what that's talking about. So we'll make this last point and then I guess we can hop off. It's already about to be 11. And I was supposed to get off 10 minutes ago, but we'll be all right. Go to Zechariah 14, unless you want to pick up on that to get into Bendavid. Matter of fact, let's read it real quick. Let's read a few verses of Zechariah 14. We'll pick up on that Monday if you can. We'll start at Zechariah 14 and we'll get into Bendavid.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let me see. Let me try to get closer to the. So Zechariah, I'll just read 14 and 9, unless you want me to read the whole thing.
No.
Just straight to the judgment.
Read 9 right now.
Yeah. It says, "And the Lord shall be king over all the earth. And in that day there will be one Lord, and his name one." So they say that's the Messiah coming back, and he will to bring basically to be king over all the earth.
Yeah, right. But again, I don't care if they go there, because it is the question is where and again, this is before Jesus arrived. Okay. So I'll call it even Jesus was here in the Old Testament, but in the Old Testament, where do you see God being king? Where? It's not there. So if they're saying the only time that God is going to be king over the earth is based on Zechariah 14, then what shadow are they claiming that it came from? Let me tell you something the Bible does do. There are prophecies and shadows before it happens that take place, before it actually happens. You understand? I'm not saying the prophecy is going to be there so Zechariah can finally happen. No, God would have been king in the Old Testament, but he would have to leave in order for the Messiah to come back and do what he did. It's not there. It's not there. Everything else.
Explain that one more time. I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
All right. So before Jesus came, there's prophecies talking about a Messiah.
Correct.
We see it in the ark that Noah made. We see it in the Ark of the Covenant. We see it. We see the prophecy of the Messiah coming that delivers people. We see it in Boaz with Ruth and her mother-in-law. Before the Messiah comes, we see it already happening in the Bible. Where in the Bible did God become king before the Messiah comes?
It doesn't. I can't think of anything.
That is not how it works. The entire Bible is very consistent, and we can't just say, well, this one time was going to be the grand finale. No. Grand finales are not grand finales unless there was something prior to it. So if you go, well, yeah, all the other kings. No. I'm talking about God himself. Those are talking about the Messiah, King David, King Saul. All of these are pointing that there is going to come a man who's going to become king. But the point was he was going to become spiritual king. Just like the ark was a physical ark because it was going to come in a spiritual ark. The law was given physically first. Why? So the spiritual law can come. The entire Bible does this.
So they believe that the Messiah is going to be king of the universe by the power of God.
Either way, they can believe that all they want to. The point I'm making is
because they go. Remember we talked about Ezekiel 37, and they go back to a third temple.
I know. But let me say the point I'm making is Jesus was not Jesus did not become physical king. First of all, Jesus is the Messiah. So why they're looking for a physical king, it will never happen. Because it was always told to us that he was going to be a spiritual king. Spiritual. It's not told to us he's going to be a physical king. That's the whole point.
Well, because then you got to go. It's so it's going to confuse the heck out of people. Then you got to go back to how you explain how Jesus says, if you don't understand the parable of the sower, you will never understand any other parable, because the land that he's coming back to conquer and be king over is our
man's hearts. Is man's hearts.
Right.
So again. It's man's hearts.
Yeah.
Because Israel's
these people are going to pull their hair. They're going to pull their payos out, bro. Their little strings on the side of their head.
That's fine. They're going to have to pull them out because listen, it's not to point the finger at anybody, not to make fun, but what I am saying is the carnal mind does not fully understand what it's reading. It doesn't. So that's why they have to say, well, no, then, that's why you have to say, oh, man, let me borrow your spiritual glasses. You have to say things like that because it's kind of like, why am I not good enough to see this? Because you ain't put your pride to the side. If you want to know why, Tribe, so why are you so good? And you can see, and why, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why I'm so good. I'm going to answer the question. How come I'm so good and I can see why I'm so much better? No, man. No. It's because I was worse. That's why. It's because I was worse. Not because I'm better. It's because I'm worse. Every time God uses someone, every time, okay, it's always because of what they were that God is using them, not because of what they became. When you say to yourself that you became right with God or something, whatever you're saying, God cannot allow you to see these things because you're going to think it's because of that thing. So, for instance, you take a Jew today that is putting themselves under the law. If God allowed them to see what the law meant, everyone would believe it was because of the law. Do you understand? If a person came out of the Jewish religion today and they said, the Bible means this, and they start saying everything that I'm saying, everybody would rush to be a Jew. It would start all the stupidity would start again today. We'd be going backwards. So he has to use someone that doesn't hold. There's nothing about me that I'm claiming that this is why I'm right with God. I have nothing. So therefore, I can be right with God because there's nothing tugging me saying this is what I have to do to be right with God. I don't have that. That's why only 2 times in the entire Bible, only twice you see Jesus, you see Jesus say to 2 people, great is thy faith. He only says it 2 times to the centurion soldier and the Canaanite woman. And then, I used to be a soldier, so I fully understood, or I thought I did at first, why the centurion soldier was told you have great faith. And he says, hey, I'm a soldier. Just say the word. Okay, I get that with the soldier. But the Canaanite woman, she's not a soldier. These 2 people were Gentiles. I'm trying to tell you, these 2 people were Gentiles. They did not have the bondage of the law. They had nothing in their head that would question what the Messiah was saying. Nothing. They just believed him. And because of that, he said, great is thy faith. I ain't seen this kind of faith in all of Israel, because they were Gentiles. So, well, try, if what you're saying is true, how come you can see? It's not because of how great I am. It's because of the opposite. It's because of the opposite. I have nothing weighing me down. Nothing. I'm just like the centurion soldier and the Canaanite woman. There is nothing about me that would cause me to question what Christ is saying. My eyes are not scaled over with the law where I can't understand. But there are people that they don't understand that's what the law does. It kills. It will stop the spirit every time. It will become mystic and just crazy. That's how it becomes, which should make sense to them. Why dogs can understand it should make sense. You understand? Why a Gentile can receive something from God so easily. Why can a Gentile receive something from God more easy than a Jew who's under the law? That's the reason. That's why these people, God said to them, great is your faith, because they were Gentiles, they're not under the law. So they just believe what God said, and that's all he needs. And you have to understand, that's the same position that Abraham was in. Abraham was not under a law, but he was able to receive the things of God because of what he wasn't. Right? Guys, it's already 11. I was supposed to get off for sure 20 minutes ago or so. But we're not done with this. We're going to pick back up, hopefully Monday, Zechariah 14:9, or we're probably going to start at 1 though, but we're going to pick back up because we did talk a lot about Benjoseph, like the side of Benjoseph. We were getting into Bendavid, and we'll pick up on that. I don't know if Dre is still here or not, but we got to go. Does anybody got anything they want to say real quick before we go? Anybody?
Yeah, we'll pick up on Monday. I'm here. I'm listening.
All right. Anybody? Nothing? Nope. Maybe so. All right, got it. CJ, what's up? Excuse me.
God bless. Have a good day.
All right, guys. God bless, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you soon.